Hey everyone, it's Will. Welcome back to another video. Even though we're on the road and just in LA, and right now we're in Albuquerque for a conference, we're still doing our Stockmate live sessions every single morning. And we rolled right into a trade with BigBear.AI today in our live session. So if you want to learn how to trade and invest during the AI boom and tune on into those live sessions, just hit the second link in the description. You'll get an email reminder about 15 minutes before the session starts. And right now, you can jump in with a special discount using the code in the second link in the description down below. When it comes to Big Bear AI, there's a few things we're going to watch today. We have the charts that we're going to dive into, and it's been processing very, very large amounts of data, this AI company. And they have their very scan technology that we can jump into at the airports, other surveillance in the Panama Canal. And the question that I want to go into today is how that data will become valuable for government contracts. So we're going to jump into it in a three-part analysis. The first thing that we jump into in the analysis stage, or this three-part analysis, number one is going to be the overview of the market. One thing we know is TSA continues to invest and look for more contracts. This is a .gov uh, bill here. You could say request for information from TSA, and they're looking for companies that specifically are in AI. You have the big beautiful bill, of course, that's more funding for AI, or funding for, I guess, defense. So this company is probably in the right market at the right time. You can see that they have security effectiveness as one of the main things they're looking for. They're also looking for reduced reliance on manual labor. So AI driven threat detection and remote screening. That means basically being able to have the technology that can have detection for carry-on and checked bags, which they have, and they're looking to also incorporate body scanning, but also what is biometric ID verification tools, so scanning of the face and things like that. So the market is growing pretty quick that they're in. Big Bear AI's market cap is about 1.8 billion, which is pretty small compared to most other companies in this industry. A comparable one that you could look at from a perspective of market cap would be like Clear. Some of you guys have seen the Clear um, company that's at the airports where they do the fast check through where you can, it's like TSA pre-check. They're about $5 billion. The other one, which is also in space tech, is going to be Leidos. Leidos is up there around $22 billion. Now, when we look at the revenue from this and getting into the financials and the markets, we see that there's more spending in that market. So that's one thing. But then the second piece of the market is the real world usage. Do we see the real world usage? Yes, we do. I just was flying through Denver International Airport. They had this facial scanner here, and the real world usage indicates some more deployments into many more airports that they previously were not in. So that's the real world usage of the market. You see JFK, you see Dallas Fort Worth International Airport, you got Chicago International Airport, Los Angeles, along with Port of Seattle. They're there and they're deploying Big Bear AI tech there. So with those deployments, then brings us to the analysis stage, which is really their news. They haven't come out with any news into August or into September, and the last article they had was this partnership with the Washington Commanders that's focused on, it's kind of like a sponsorship slash potentially working with them with AI to optimize their franchise. So whether that's, it could be on the fifth floor suite level, at suites on entrances at the stadiums, potentially, technology for enhancing the fan experience. So they're actually focused on either, I don't know if it's related to actually playing the game of football. I think it's more related to uh, their fan experience of going in and out of the airports because they have their facial tech. Maybe that's something they're going to be deploying. There wasn't a whole lot of details, but they're also partnered with Soft Points, which is more of a point of sale uh, partnership as well for the AI facial recognition. And then also they are doing the threat detection with a few partnerships, including Smith's Detection. So that is advancing airport security. You also have the Panama Canal. So this is where we get into the big idea. They're if they're putting out the Veriscan, they're doing the Panama Canal with the AI powered surveillance of cargo that's going through the Panama Canal, or this surveillance of, I guess, human surveillance, you could say. Um, the question then becomes, they're processing millions of people, most likely millions of different uh, IDs of different cargoes of different people, where they're coming from, where they're going. uh, and that's the question: why is that data valuable? Most likely to be valuable for their defense partnerships. They're partnered with the Pentagon, but they're partnered with the Department of Defense. They're partnered with the Army as well. They have some contracts there with the Department of Defense, and most likely what we'd see is the use of that data being the next step. I mean, you could have all this data, but what is the use? They probably want to know where people are going, where they're coming from, travel activity, maybe even compute on um, their habits. Like, where are they? Is there any strange habits? Is there any strange travel activity that's taking place? Which, from an AI perspective, is really where this technology exceeds the human ability. And that's why the Department of Defense would probably say, yeah, we're not going to have a human sit there and go through comb by comb. Let's have an AI go through it all, bring those potential threats to a human to take a look at. And I think that's where their focus is a lot on their technology, even from, in this case, they have a modeling simulation suite for event simulation, predictive analytics tools to accelerate precision making and improve system performance or decision making. And that comes down to simulation based predictive analytics designed to optimize complex processes and improve decision making. So you can kind of see where they're coming from. And that is why there has to be an execution. And that brings us to their financials. When they are getting all this data, are they putting it in a way of like, hey, here's what we have, this is what we're doing, um, for our partners, here's how you would use this information. So they have they're partnered with the United Kingdom. Okay, so they're there with Model Solution. uh, Germany, they're also doing the Pro Model software, which is actually seems to be pointing towards what could be healthcare. So one thing that we talked about with their healthcare side of things is kind of what similar to what PLTR does, which is um, you have Boston uh, Health, Boston Hospital. You have being able to simulate getting the right doctors for the right patients at the right time, scheduling them out, and not having conflicts of scheduling. And a human doing that every single day would be very difficult, but AI can do it basically on autopilot. So you see some of their decision intelligence, they're working there as well with their pro model over in Mexico. And you can kind of take a look at what that looks like from the resources they're providing. Visualize, analyze, optimize, and they're they're working on basically, I can't read too well in Spanish here, but it says models of simulation and analysis for optimizing uh, uh, things to that are the same. Um, being able to build products and softwares that uh, give you more informed decisions. So basically, inputting their AI models into some companies there in Mexico, as well as Brazil and United Kingdom. So that's an interesting kind of approach they have. But this is what we're really focused on right now, which is the financials tying into that. Because now that we see the more partnerships roll out, we see more contracts in the last 8 months. At the beginning of the year, we saw a lot more contracts roll in. Can the revenue spike? And the revenue is still there around that $30 to $40 million a quarter. which, you know, it puts them around 120 to 150 million dollars a year, but that's where they've been at since 2022. So really what we're looking for is for this to work for them in the long term, for them to this infrastructure change, them focusing on the very scan, them focusing on the Panama Canal. The new CEO that was just started in January has had to do some restructuring, and he was previously the commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection and U.S. Department of Homeland Security, acting secretary of U.S. Department of Homeland Security, which means that essentially they're well positioned for this restructuring and for them to build out their growth. But from a financial perspective, they haven't seen it reflect in their earnings from a revenue standpoint. However, I think there's more confidence in the company than probably they've ever had. And the reason why is, I mean, I don't have to say I think, I mean, that is what we've seen from an investor sentiment standpoint, from institutional investors becoming more involved and seeing so many more increased positions than decreased positions. We've seen more, almost 200 holders increased positions actively from institutions and decreased only at about 69, which indicates that they're fairly bullish on the company. Now, outside of that, according to the institutional holdings, and you look at the financials, this is where the confidence actually stems is getting their money raised up to about 600 million in assets, the balance sheet. What you need to look at is, all right, they're getting this data, they're doing this deployment, they have more money on the balance sheet. Can they execute on the actual use cases for all of that data that they're getting? I mean, you get all this data, all right, are you able to go to the Department of Defense or go to TSA and say, hey, we could give you all the data very, very organized so you could see, you know, as much info as they could get about the subjects that they are analyzing via their AI technology, whether it's in the ports or it's in the airports or it's in the ports of entry with the naval side of things as well, even in the Panama Canal, are they able to, you know, really do something with that data they collect and say, you know, here's what we're able to tell by all this data that we collect, and that's really where their edge could be as well. So that comes down to a software development side of things. Now, if we look at their jobs that they have posted on their website here, they do have a lot of software engineer things. So you got a senior software engineer. They're looking for full stack developers. They're looking for mostly software engineers and systems engineers, which makes sense. That's the type of uh, uh, that's the type of hiring that would make sense. Now, if they had a bunch of sales, like that could be good. But if they had a bunch of sales or just marketing, they were looking for marketing, that would actually be more of a red flag. But when we see like, oh, maybe demand increasing, they're really trying to hire software developers. That's something to watch there in their developments with their hiring right now. So that's how the financials kind of looking good and seeing their strategy going well, and the news seems to slow a little bit, but maybe we get some good stuff coming out here. Now, when we look at the charts, that brings us to step number 3. We're trading BigBear.AI this morning in our live session. So far, I don't know that it's moved much. You can see we're up about $45 on a fairly small investment of just about 706 shares. We are looking for this swing this morning in our live session. This has been a 2-day trade so far. It could be a couple of weeks. It really just depends how the volatility goes. But you can see where it's at right now. It's only up about 0.6% from entry or something. So just $42 profit. But where we're going on the shorter term, aside from the longer term trades, is when you take a step back and we see where it's been, we know that when we started covering it around $1 a share, when it made this run, it had big corrections on the way up to that $10 price point by February. Now, when the greater market sold off, this happened after everything rallied in the beginning of the year, and then we saw a really sell off all the way until summer, and that sell off it sold down to 236. Then we saw it really push up all the way up into that $8 range once again, or $9 range really, and then in this recent sell-off, we've seen it start to um, build this trend where it's kind of trending back down to the 200-day moving average. Now, this position we just entered, it's really near this 200-day moving average, kind of indicating maybe where it could be a bounce. And the sentiment plays a role here because, again, revenue is lagging. So if revenue is lagging, we're relying heavier on what could be an investor sentiment in probability sake. Um, and relying on news and relying on potential contracts and the World Cup or the Olympics coming up, that this company would see more demand rather than maybe just fair valuation, because it is trading higher than most companies that we analyze in these types of investments. But we have long-term trades that we entered back where the valuation made more sense when they were at $2.80 is where our previous entry of our long-term position has been. So when we look at the current levels, and this brings us to the shorter term trade, since their earnings came out and they saw that spike down and then that recovery up to $6, they've sold down pretty consistently. See this trend, selling down, and they sold down to here, and we're potentially seeing what could be 3 stages to a reversal. Now, if we're wrong, we're wrong. That's okay. We manage our risk. One thing that we often use is our trade profit calculator. If you ever want to grab that, it's free. It's in the first link below. It's a stock profit calculator. In this case, I think we probably got in around 485. What was it trading at right now? It's trading at 495. 495, and I think, what did we say, we had somewhere around 800 shares or 900 shares, something like that. And so we're going for, you're really about 10% to 15%. We're going for about 500 to maybe even above that into this range for profit. Now, the risk then, we're having stops somewhere around this 470 or 465, I guess, is where we're looking at with the support here. And that's where we've seen it hold above. If it hits it, okay, we managed risk, but we're going for a much greater profit on the short term. And we also have long-term positions that we're up on. And so it's just part of taking advantage of some of the patterns we may be recognizing. When you have a 3 stage to reversal, of course, you got one direction, and then you got it reversing the other direction, right? That's a reversal. But what we're looking for the 3 stages is you have that initial stage right here where it's selling down very consistently. Then you have the consolidation potential where it goes from left to right, and then essentially looking for the breakout or the now reversal going in the opposite direction, which in this case would be up into this 570 to $6 range, which is about a 15 to 20% margin for profit. So right now we're just up about $52 so far. The other side of our portfolio is doing well, with Google is up. Tesla was up today as well. We saw them off to a good start this morning. And so portfolio is up about 2% so far. And this trade really not moving too much since our entry. So we'll be monitoring it here throughout the week. It's Friday, so we'll see how it closes out, and we'll look forward to most likely holding it over the weekend, seeing how things play out this next week. And again, if you ever want to join us in our live session, there's a special offer for StockMate. If you want the targets for the upcoming week, every week we like to release the different targets for all the companies that are reporting earnings, pre-market and after hours. So exactly when they're going to be dropping their earnings reports. You could see that along with the different targets we have for those companies, and get access to the live tradings that we have every morning, along with access to a community here of over 25 individuals here with a net worth over 7 figures. So that's a cool place. I joke with people, they say, Will, where you come up with these ideas? 90% of what we come up with is from you, the people that are in StockMate, the investors that are here on the channel. So comment your thoughts on investments down below, and also have a look at the second link below if you want to join StockMate live trading Monday at market open. It's there for you, that special discount. If I earned your thumbs up, hit the like button, do consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.